But let's just say the DC Universe hit a rough patch, and some of those films, honestly, were pretty terrible. And after Justice League came out, I had a little bit of hope for Aquaman. I thought he was fine in that movie, but the trailers were somewhat promising, and James Wan was behind the camera from Conjuring fame, and I had hope that he would do something interesting with the character, and he did just that. I loved this movie, and I think I'll probably love this movie more than most people will. This really is the kind of movie that I go crazy over. It's weird at times, but fun. It builds such a crazy and amazing world, and it is so well put together. Jason Momoa stars as the title character, and I think he makes a fantastic Aquaman. On paper, this character is kind of silly, but he really does make it work. It is so enjoyable to watch him do his thing on screen. He does a great job at channeling the physicality of the role, and he has enough charm to pull off the character. I also thought his journey throughout this film was very well done. He's kind of torn between two worlds, the land and the sea, and he really doesn't fit in either one of them, but he is tasked to bring it all together. This film also does go over his origin. I thought it was fresh and new. Nicole Kidman plays his mother, and I thought she was fantastic in this movie, especially in the opening few scenes, but her character is really what elevates him to newer levels. MERA is the one who kind of drags him into the action, and I thought Amber Heard played her character very well. I really enjoyed her abilities and what she can do as a character. And this could be said about every single actor in this film. Everyone did a solid job, and James Wan did an amazing job assembling this giant cast. My favorite aspect of this movie was the world building. This movie is 2 hours and 23 minutes long, and it covers a lot of ground in that time. I loved all of the practical sets they incorporated with the vast CG landscape. The majority of this film does take place underwater, and it is like nothing I've ever seen before. Atlantis kind of reminded me of Tron Legacy, and because I really like that movie, and the visuals are incredible. There are just so many underwater ships and buildings on top of ruins, with sea life swimming around. It really is breathtaking. There's one scene in particular that has some of the best visuals I've seen all year. You get a glimpse of it in the trailer, and I was wowed then, and I am still wowed now when I got to see the entire scene play out in the movie. This film uses a lot of CGI, and I thought it worked seamlessly with this movie and the story. And some of the visuals that don't work as well, it still looks like it fits within the world that James Wan created. So even the weaker visuals, I still think it works, just because the whole visual language of this film is just so cohesive and coherent throughout that it just fits. Some story beats may be familiar, but it's really the location, the set design, and the sheer scope of this world that makes it stand out over the rest. I also can't go without mentioning the villains of this film. I thought Black Manta was great. His personal connection with Aquaman was set up perfectly, and he was very imposing. The main antagonist to this film, however, was King Orm, played by Patrick Wilson, who always seems to be in James Wan's films. I thought his character's backstory was really interesting, even though the film resorted to moving him from location to location, expositing all of his background. When he was in action, I thought he worked very well, and this film also does dodge a few cliches with him towards the end of the film, which I appreciated very much. On top of all of that, there is of course the action. I thought all of it was so well directed. James Wan really does know this world, and the way he shoots both the action sequences on land and underwater, it is so unique and so thrilling, and he just loves his sweeping shots and his wide angles, and it really does elevate all of the action. The entire sequence in Sicily was my favorite. Had some great character moments for MERA, and really showcased her character's abilities along with Wan's skills as a director. And of course, this movie is not perfect. There are definitely some things that I can pinpoint and say this did not work for me, and MERA and Arthur's chemistry in this movie is one of those. I think it was fine in this movie, but I can see it improving so much in future films. There were also some very strange music choices in this movie, where whenever they were on land, they used the soundtrack for the movie, and whenever they were underwater, or whenever they were world building, they used the musical score. And I think it was very jarring the first time you hear the music when they get on land, but it was just kind of weird at first. And as I did mention before, there are a lot of exposition scenes, and one thing that this movie does that I find hilarious is whenever there's a character moment between two characters just talking about something, whether it's exposition or whether it's, some of them are actually really nice conversations, but then all of a sudden an explosion happens in the background, knocking them forward, and a huge action set piece starts. And this happens 3 times in this movie, and I couldn't help but crack up laughing the third time it happens. But there are a lot of scenes like that in the movie, and a lot of exposition that I think could have been done better, but you needed it to build the world, and I see why you had that much, but it is very noticeable when you are in a scene of exposition. And honestly, I'm surprised I love this movie so much. I did go in with slightly lower expectations, so maybe that's part of it, but I really did end up loving this movie. I was just so impressed with the directing and the world building that James Wan accomplishes in this movie. The sheer originality of this world is what kept my interest throughout the entire thing, and I cannot wait to return to this world, seeing this movie for a second and third time, and seeing where they would go with a sequel. I also gave it some thought, and I do have a ranking of all the DC movies that have come out so far, and this list is subject to change, and I just saw Aquaman just like a few days ago, so this is fresh on my mind. I haven't rewatched Wonder Woman in a little bit, but this is my official list as of right now after seeing Aquaman. So I would put Aquaman at my number 1 spot. I just really like this movie. Wonder Woman would be at my number 2, then at number 3 is Man of Steel, and then I would have Batman vs. Superman, the ultimate cut, the ultimate cut for that one, at number 4. Then I would put Justice League, and at the very bottom, way down, is Suicide Squad. That'll be it for this video. I hope you guys subscribe to the channel to catch more reviews just like this one, and I'll see you guys all in my next review.